Hello, everyone. My guest today is Mike McDerment. He's the co-founder and CEO of FreshBooks, the world's #1 cloud accounting software for self-employed professionals and their teams. Built in 2003 after he accidentally saved over an invoice, Mike spent 3.5 years growing FreshBooks from his parents' basement. Since then, over 10 million people have used FreshBooks to save time on billing and collect billions of dollars via their invoicing product. A lover of the outdoors, Mike has been bitten so many times, it's rumored he's the first human to have developed immunity to mosquitoes. Mike, you ready to take us to the top?
All right, let's give it a shot.
I'm looking at the sign behind you. Steeper runs make better skies. I have skiers. There's not supposed to be mosquitoes on ski slopes. So why are you bitten up so much?
I enjoy the outdoors, as the bio said there. So I used to do a lot of canoe trips, long canoe trips, like 30, 40 days. And so that would be where I encountered the majority of the mosquitoes in my life.
That'll do it. Well, look, I first heard of FreshBooks because I ended up getting very close with the Rackspace crew, Pat Matthews and Pat Kahn, and some of these guys were early investors in my first company. I remember them just casually mentioning how impressed they were with you, and I think some of them invested in FreshBooks as well. So I'm excited to chat with you. Tell us what FreshBooks does and how do you make money?
Yeah, so FreshBooks is ridiculously easy to use invoicing and accounting software. So we help folks create and send professional looking invoices, track expenses, ultimately just capture all those transactions that make it, really filing your taxes and accounting at the end of the year easy. As I like to say, if you invoice, you need FreshBooks. What makes us a little different is that we're not built for everybody. So we're focused on folks who get paid for their time and expertise when serving other people. So we don't serve restaurants, we don't serve retail, we don't serve manufacturing. Really around client service-based businesses, people who serve others, and that lets us keep the product simple, available on all your devices. All that good stuff. So that's a bit about FreshBooks.
I got to tell you, when full disclosure, you guys sponsored the show many months ago. And when I used it, one of the things that impressed the heck out of me was I always hated chasing money. My least favorite thing is to send an invoice and then have to remind them constantly to pay it. I hated it. And you guys have this nice little life cycle email. It's very soft push, very friendly, but boy, does it help you collect more money quicker without you having to send those nasty reminders. So I'm a fan of the product. Give us a sense of what people pay on average to use the tool if someone's listening right now.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I won't go into the averages, but I'll say, hey, you can start out with a month for free. And if you find that we save you a bunch of time, which you probably will, we have packages ranging from $15 to $50. And we have some folks who have a lot of staff and things like that using things like time tracking or project management that are built out and available through our offering. And so some people pay us hundreds of dollars a month, but you can start out as low as $15.
That's great. Or free for a month.
That's right. Actually, yes, that's right. Better still.
That's great. Okay, very good. And then can you keep using it for free, or are they forced to make a decision at the end of that trial?
Yeah. So, presently our business model is a free trial. So at the end of that period, you'd be asked to make a decision. And our hope is that we've saved you an hour or more and that you value your time. And that's generally what we find to be true.
I imagine you've tested this with the kind of cohorts you're working with. You have enough volume to really get clarity on these things. Why decide kind of on this model versus, a free model in perpetuity where once they send 10 invoices a month, they have to start paying, or some other model?
Yeah, so there are various models, and we have participated in a variety of them over the years. I'll say we started out, rather unscientifically. I will go so far as to say I think there's lots of dynamics around pricing, including so it's hard to be scientific around it because markets, and customer expectations, all these things are changing, and so you need to have a bit of a forward-looking opinion around some of this stuff. I think there are trade-offs on all kinds of things. A freemium model, maybe get more people using, but fewer people paying. With a free trial model, you have a decision point, so you can actually learn with more confidence because there's consistent periods in that. So if you're thinking about business model, there's various trade-offs in one versus the other, and it's an important decision that you have to make as an entrepreneur when you're getting started.
Yep. Okay, good. So give us more of the background here. So you launched this, you said in 2003?
Yeah. So I built the first version. We didn't launch until 2004, and even that, I wouldn't say it was really much of a business till maybe 2006-ish. But yeah, so over a decade at it, and learned a bunch along the way.
You earned a little bit of a reputation of kind of the anti VC, right? I think you bootstrapped for over a decade. Tell us kind of how you think about raising capital, how much you've raised to date, and what kind of quote broke your thinking. Why decide to raise eventually?
Yeah, as I like to say, I was the poster boy for the anti-VC movement for a long time, and I think as I'll walk you through my thought process, there's some good reasons for that, and decided to change my mind, which is the prerogative that I'm afforded. So, I guess when we got started out, there were a couple factors at play. I knew that venture folks did not know. So it was not an even playing field with regards to building these businesses, and so I felt like I was behind the learning curve there at the outset. So that was something. But the core reason I didn't want to raise capital was because we really believed in customer service. And I was always afraid I would somehow show up at a board meeting one day if we raised venture capital. People would tell me like, "Oh, we're outsourcing our service function now. Service is a cost center," and I don't see it that way at all, especially serving SMB. And so, by the way, great to follow with the folks at Rackspace, and big believers in service as well. And so that was the reason. Like, it was basically like fear. And as I started to tease through the fear and the knowledge that I knew that I didn't know stuff, I started to de-risk things in our business. So we started to de-risk, the product, the market, and it was actually when I
how did you know that, Mike? How did you know you were de-risking?
Well, I mean, more and more people were signing up every day. They seemed to love what we're doing. They're screaming about how great it is versus the incumbents. So for all those reasons and more, and growth, like sustained high growth, right? So it's like, it doesn't seem like the like things are stopping. So for all those reasons, but the real thing I'll get at, which changed my mind, was so you're de-risking those things, but there was still one major problem we had. We got to about 100 people. And I had, tried to surround myself with the best folks I could. And until I hired like what I would call was my first sort of real executive, what I realized is I just didn't know what I was looking for before that. And, it's just a learning curve sometimes as an entrepreneur. And so, then I hired that first executive, and then I was like, okay, I'm addicted. I just need a bunch more of these. And by the way, then once you have that, the only thing really holding us back was capital. And so I had learned enough. We had been operating with a board, felt like, okay, the conditions are right for a few things. We've de-risked the opportunity. I feel like I, have enough water under my keel to understand kind of the game. And I think this is very important. And I feel like we're in a place where if, afforded the opportunity to deploy some other people's capital, we can return it. Right. Because that's success to me. Some people, it's like, hey, I'm just going to take someone else's money. It's a bet. Like, I don't know. I guess my responsibility gene is if we're going to take it on, I want to pay it back. So I guess at this point, we've sort of secured over $75 million in capital, US dollars.
That's all equity, or was any of that venture debt?
We have, so I think we'd be a little over that if you had, the affordance of debt, but it's capital.
Well, I mean, that's one question I was going to ask you, right? There's a lot of founders today that shared your same concerns about VC, right? So what they've done instead is they've just worked with some of these venture debt firms, and they're having some success doing it. I'm curious why you didn't go more down that route, or maybe you didn't. I just don't know about it.
I guess. Here's how I think about raising capital and equity is like if you're going to give up, say, 20% of your company, right? You're going to raise a round. If you can drive 20% more value, if you can grow the business by more than you're neutral to good, right? Now you got to be able to return the capital, so you actually need to increase the value more than, say, 20% and that kind of thing. But I think there's a great alignment. Actually, I'll say this. I got to a place where I felt like the board I had was wonderful, but, I kind of left board meetings like, geez, I didn't get what I wanted out of that. I was ready for professional institutional money. I had some great operators, like, both still on the board, and one of them runs an 80,000 person company, but couldn't tell me market data, like how much should we pay executive who does this, or like those kinds of things. With professional investors, like they just give you those answers tickety boo because they're hiring those people all the time. So yeah.
So, okay, good. So you raised your first tranche, I think was 2013. You've since raised about 75. Let's shift more back kind of the customers here for a second. So serving SMBs, it's well known that churn can be really difficult to manage, especially at these price points. How have you managed your churn, and what is it today? What have you been able to drive it down to?
Mm-hmm. So we really don't disclose give any kind of financial guidance. It's one of the nice things about being a private company. We compete with public ones. So, but what do we do? I guess we've always just tried to focus on things from the client side and really understand, hey, what is that product that they're looking for, and make sure we collect feedback if people are choosing to move on and understand why. And our segment, a lot of times it's like, hey, I took a job, right? And it's like, there's no feature that's going to like you stay in that scenario, right? So yeah, I mean, I think it's that offering a great level of service when called upon. In education, we recognize that our customers, they're experts in what they do. They're serving others and don't have a lot of time. So when they need help, being able to pick up the phone and get a competent live person, immediately, like we don't have a phone tree. You get a live person when you phone us. These are the kinds of things that actually do sort of matter over time.
Mm-hmm. Mike, how do you manage? So I'm going to be devil's advocate here for a second. Someone paying you, if someone's listening right now and they have a similar price point as you, call it $15 a month, they're saying, well, I can't do what Mike does because I haven't raised that capital and I can't afford to put a human touch on a $15, paying customer. How have you been able to manage that? That's very difficult.
I'll just say, hey, we were doing that before we raised any capital. So,
well, that's what I'm saying. You figured something out. How did you do it before you raised capital?
I think sometimes these things, they start out where you start out. That was always just part of how we did things. So sorry, I think I might have cut you off there.
No, Mike, all I was saying is, so yeah, tell us what you figured out. Even you were doing this before you raised capital. How does it work from an economics perspective?
Well, what I would say is back to, I believe service is an opportunity, not a cost center, right? And so, I don't know that we did the math to say like we should do this or we didn't. We just always believe that like if your customer's phoning, it's worth it for you to be there and pick up the call, right? You're going to learn something. You're going to learn why they're leaving, so you can maybe stop the next one if you can't stop this one. You're going to learn what are they looking for in the future, like all these kinds of things. So I'm a big believer in customer proximity, and telephone is one great way still to stay in touch with your customers, and the insight and the learning you get from that, I believe, helps you be a customer-centric company, which helps you find opportunities, adapt to the market, all those kinds of things that are hard to find on any line in a spreadsheet, but actually become total difference makers for your culture, your company, how you go after the market.
Yep. Can you share anything, Mike, before we wrap up in terms of scale you're at today, in terms of either free users or total customers you're serving?
Yeah. So what we usually we're a little shy of 300 people is kind of the one benchmark. We basically don't disclose, but that's one thing we do. Yeah.
So where to, like, I mean, my research team is really good, right? So they'll pull data that's publicly available. So like Wikipedia reports, you've got over 1.6 million accounts, not visitors, as of like in 2010, right? So like, where do they get this data from if it's not from what you're releasing?
Great question. I didn't put it there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same thing with Forbes, right? So they put your run rate at $50 million. Forbes usually does a very good job justifying numbers they put up publicly. Where do they get that kind of number?
I think they said north of 50.
Yeah. But where do they get that number? Have you guys put out like minimums publicly at least, or no, not at all?
No, we haven't. No.
Okay. So where do they get a number like that from, in your opinion?
That's a great question. Forbes is pretty, careful about publishing numbers that are accurate or not. I know that part. Yeah.
Well, that's why I'm asking, right? So I don't want to quote that number if it's really not correct, but it is public. So I wanted to ask you about it. So, and give you credit where credit's due. So I understand you're private, and that's a benefit of being private. You don't have to share this stuff. But look, I appreciate you sharing what you can share. It means a lot to my audience. So let's wrap up here with the famous 5. So number 1, what's your favorite business book?
Oh, geez. Favorite business book. What I'm a fan of right now, if you have a team and you're growing and scaling a team, is Multipliers which is basically about people building. I go another one for first-time managers. I guess it's First Break All the Rules out of Gallup's a good one, but both those are great on the people side. But I'm really loving multipliers. Very gratifying if you want to coach and mentor and develop others.
Number 2, is there a CEO you're following or studying right now?
Good question. I have a board member I've been learning a lot from lately who's just taken a job running credit cards for Barclays right now. It's formerly Capital One. So I've been getting a kick out of working with him. You probably haven't heard of him, so non-famous, but, really great.
Well, what's their name? That's the whole point, is to kind of uncover gems.
Shane Holdaway, and I don't know how much stuff he's going to have publicly out there, but
okay.
Great guy.
All right, number 3, what's your favorite online tool for building the business besides your own?
I'd love to give like really boring answers for this stuff, but it's like, so my mail client on where email, I can't do this without email.
Yeah. What mail client do you use?
I don't know if I should be ashamed, but I use Outlook. Okay. I'm on iPhone. I just moved the Outlook app there. So doing most of it by phone these days.
All right. Number 4, Mike, how many hours of sleep are you getting every night?
Bumped it up. Funny thing, since I've had kids, I need more sleep. So I'm probably 7.5 hours these days. I kind of used to aspire to be, sub, around 6, but no, I'm just not right unless it's 7.5 now.
And what's your situation today? Married, single, and how many kiddos?
Married, 2 kids, and a wonderful canine.
Yeah. All right, 2 kiddos. And how old are you?
That's for the public realm. There we go. I honestly, you're asking me, and I'm not sure. I think I'm 41 or 42. Well, somewhere in there.
That's what too many canoeing trips will do to you. You lose track of time, right?
It's not something I spend a lot of time thinking about. Yeah.
All right, Mike, take us home. Last question. What do you wish your 20-year-old self knew?
I'm going to ask you that again, just because the connection just broke up in asking. Yeah.
Yeah. Last question. What do you wish your 20-year-old self knew?
My 20-year-old self, I think I wish I got faster to the knowledge that I love designing and building things, but I'm sure glad I didn't know it was involved in starting on a journey like this, because you'd never start.
Guys, there you have it. He wishes he learned that he would have loved design earlier on, but he's glad he didn't know what it takes to do that, because you never start if you knew all the things you'd have to face every day. FreshBooks, there you have it. Launched back in 2004. It was anti-VC for many years. Then realized, you know what? If I can find people that understand our love of customer support and customer success, I'll raise. He found people that aligned with what he's doing now. $75 million raised, 300 people. You can get started on a free trial or upgrade to $15 a month. Again, collecting your money right via invoices significantly easier. Forbes reports over $50 million in annual recurring revenue. He did not confirm or deny that, but Mike, thank you so much for taking us to the top.
Thanks for having me, Nathan.